When you are paying to promote yourself, advertise yourself, create awareness of your products or services, or just even your brand, you have to make sure that you have all of that validation that follows to help somebody make that buying decision.
Welcome everyone, my name is Vishal Texanani and I'm a senior content editor here at Vendasta. I'm thrilled to be joined by our VP of Enterprise Strategic Partnerships, Desiree Kupietz. Desiree is a wealth of knowledge in the media space. She manages Vendasta's key partnerships with some of North America's leading media companies, and she brings over 20 years experience in advertising and sales level positions at companies like McClatchy. So today, what are we going to do? It's a really important topic if you're in sales or if you're in digital transformation within a media company, whether it's a publisher or broadcaster. Because what we're going to talk about is some of the long-term macroeconomic trends that are impacting the way media companies work with local advertisers and their business models. There's a lot of challenges facing the industry. So what we're going to talk about is some of the solutions to help solve them, mainly around digital transformation and also the cultural elements that support digital transformation. Desiree, it's great to have you here, and I'm excited to say this. Welcome to Canada.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity, Vish.
Fantastic. Let's dive straight into it, Desiree. What are the long-term trends and challenges that are impacting the media sector, especially as we head into 2023, close to 2024 and beyond?
Well, I think you just spoke of one of the largest challenges, which is digital transformation. And there's really two sides to that, right? There's the sales, paid media side, but there's also even, when you look at publishing, the journalism side. So ultimately, really making that digital transformation a part of the entire organization. And with so many changes amongst not just consumers, but even businesses in how they expect to work with a media company, all of that is impacting any media company today, whether traditional or not.
Okay, so many factors coalescing around the media space there. In light of that, why is digital transformation more important than ever?
Well, I would say that it's more important than ever to continue operating, right? To continue business, to continue to grow revenue at the level that I'm sure the organization expects. And that in itself is a challenge. While we're seeing declines in some of the media segments today, we are seeing growth in the digital trends. However, there has to be a balance. And what I mean by that is, while revenue may be declining in some of those key areas or segments of the organization, we have to find a way to increase the revenue through digital media streams. And that can be very challenging simply because sometimes the revenue from the digital advertising component doesn't necessarily make up for the revenue that's being lost on, let's say, the traditional media side. And so it takes a lot of patience. It takes really strong sales processes to be put in place, but it also takes a very aggressive go-to-market strategy to ensure that you are driving the level of business that you're trying to achieve in order to make up for some of that decline. But at the same time, growing the business and rapidly growing the business. So I think there's so many layers to what we would consider a digital transformation. I think we'll get more into that.
Okay, and so you hit a lot of key points there. There's layers of challenges, revenue and growth, but the one thing that unifies them, Desiree, is the customer journey, and that's completely changed, right? Can you help the audience understand what was the customer journey pre all this internet digital, and what does it look like now, so they can understand where to focus their effort today?
Yeah, wow, talk about how the customer journey has changed. Just if you look even at the past 10 years, a lot of the customer journey was offline, right? And now most of it is online. Granted, there is still some offline behaviors that do happen that impact the customer journey. But ultimately, there are so many different avenues online avenues that truly impact the customer journey. You think about all the social platforms consumers have access to now. They want to conduct their research. They leverage social media platforms. They leverage review sources. They even leverage Facebook communities, let's say, to ask for affirmation or recommendations from other people. That's kind of the new word of mouth, right? It used to be maybe your neighbor or a friend or family. Now it's any online community that you have access to. And so I think what's really important to understand is that we have to help businesses understand that, but also help them know that we can get them in front of all of those different online communities, as a media provider, as a media company. And you kind of have to demystify a little bit too and not make it so overcomplicated, because it's a very fragmented space. And you've got to help them find the right audience, so you know exactly which outlets and platforms that are going to not only resonate with their audience, but impact the customer journey to ultimately drive the conversion for the business.
Okay. So we want to dig into that more, and we will. What are the implications of all this from how a local advertiser thinks about things? Because before, it was a placement in a newspaper, an ad in a newspaper, or a spot on radio. But today, a local advertiser has so many considerations for brand awareness and lead generation, right?
Absolutely. And what I always say is, it's not about what the business says about themselves anymore. That was the way that advertising worked well. We've been in business this long. This is how great we are. These are all the products and services that we offer, but that no longer resonates with consumers today. It's really about what others are advocating for about that specific business. So the strategy for the business has to be, how am I finding local advocates to advocate for my business, online, even offline as well, because again, that still does happen today. But ultimately, what they need to understand is, while using those media avenues to market and create awareness and interest, that's wonderful. And that still is a big part of a marketing strategy. But there are so many more things that need to be done to ensure that those that are advocating for them are validating everything that they've been saying about their business, right? And that's what we as consumers are expecting.
Mm-hmm. So it's coming back to the online presence piece, right?
Absolutely.
So what does this mean for media companies? They've got, such a strong foothold. If you're a publisher in newspapers, if you're radio, of course, your radio network. But now with the reality of how consumers are searching for products and services, what does it mean in terms of what a media company needs to be offering today?
Ooh, yeah, that's there are multiple things for sure. But at the same time, I think there is a way that we can help simplify those solutions and services that any media company goes to market with today, in terms of how we articulate that to a business. They don't need to truly understand all of the whys and the tactics and all of the digital terminology and things like that. Rather, it's, let's talk to them about how we're going to help them increase their online presence through visibility, review management, social marketing, content building for them, a content strategy, right? We really have to simplify that and help the business understand we are going to ensure that they are in front of that audience, very much like an omni-channel approach. We're going to help them get in front of that audience no matter where they are, no matter what they consume, but it's going to be in the right place at the right time with the right message. And I think that's really important.
Absolutely. And it's in the same vein as a sales rep doesn't need to understand exactly how the printing press works, exactly how the radio frequency or broadcasting mechanisms work.
Don't overcomplicate it.
Don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get to the education a bit in a moment. But what I want to ask here is, if you're not doing these things, if you're not helping local advertisers with their online presence, well, you're going to lose market share, right? That's the reality.
Absolutely. Businesses today spend a lot of money promoting themselves. That could be on radio, could be TV, could be in print. And when you are paying to promote yourself, advertise yourself, create awareness of your products or services, or just even your brand, you have to make sure that you have all of that validation that follows to help somebody make that buying decision. So if all you're doing is focusing on creating this awareness and promoting, but you don't have that foundational online presence handled and at the level that consumers expect today, especially when it comes to the reputation and advocacy in the local market, ultimately what's going to happen is if it's a competitive market and other businesses have the same products or the same services, naturally they're going to come across those competitors through their research and most likely start to do business with them if they have all of those things in place. You can consider it insurance of all of the money that you're putting towards paid advertising. And again, paid advertising is such a huge component to drive new business, but at the same time, reputation, content, advocacy, all those things are so key to ensuring the success of it.
I like the insurance analogy. Now, let's go into some more detail about if a media sales team was to implement or diversify or expand their digital offering. What would you say? And, you do this every day. Yeah. What are some of the essential building blocks of a digital portfolio for a sales team that they can take to local advertiser, of course, in complement with what they do already on the traditional front?
Yeah, and I love the way that you position that, where it truly is complementing everything that they're doing. So I think it's really important that there is, and I like to call them strategies. So there's reputation, but that is a reputation strategy, which encompasses acquiring new reviews, responding to reviews, being aware of your reviews. There's all these different layers that kind of roll up into the overarching solution and or service, if you will. So online foundational solutions, I think, are the core of supporting any sort of paid advertising strategy. And that would encompass reputation, like I had just mentioned. Social marketing is important, but think about social marketing too. It's not just social marketing. There's content, there's audience building, there's audience engagement or public engagement, things like that. And then additionally, you want to make sure that the advocacy is also happening. So there is a strategy to drive advocacy to build upon that reputation. Also, I truly believe that content building is not only going to help support all of the things that I had just mentioned, but also their website presence and their ability to gain authority in any sort of search, whether it's a Google search, Bing search, Yahoo search, doesn't matter. They have to have authority in that space too. So really all of those three things combined, I think, are kind of the core essentials of what any business needs.
Okay. Now, one of the misconceptions I hear from leaders in publishing and broadcasting who are new to digital is that they say there's no money in digital. True or false?
I would say false. However, there is some truth to that in terms of, when you look at paid digital ads, whether it's display or even search, ultimately a lot of that money is going to the actual media spend itself, even paid social ads. So what happens is the Googles of the world, the Facebook, they are receiving the paid spend. The media companies are ultimately getting, whatever a management fee that they're charging.
Right.
But in order to remain competitive in the market, you can't price yourself out of the market, meaning you can't charge astronomical account management fees. However, there are creative ways that you can make more money. That could be on design, it could be on services. So not necessarily tied to their actual media spend or paid advertising spend, but rather on all of the services and things that you're doing to help them succeed. So there are ways that they can enhance their profit margins with paid digital ads. But yes, there is a slight truth to that. But I think there's always a way that you can increase your profit by being creative with how you price your services. Don't underprice your services.
And having an online presence is a continuous vacuum, right? So kind of the set of products that a local advertiser needs to increase over time. And the beauty of those is that those are recurring revenue streams. Yes. And eventually when they're convinced, they look to a radio sales rep or they look to a publishing sales rep and they say, this is great, this is working, let's complement this with an ad.
Right. And, when you think about being profitable, and you just had mentioned monthly recurring revenue, that is something that is so key. Just like consumers are getting extremely accustomed to subscription-based models for everything in our lives now, well, business owners are consumers too. So ultimately, if you can take the approach of creating that subscription-based model for all of these products and services and solutions that you're providing them, to them, they understand it. And at the same time, what that does is helps you create a much solid revenue stream where you can forecast that revenue much more easier than the transactional, the dips and the valleys. Don't get me wrong; those things are still going to happen because of the seasonality of some businesses, and there will be upticks in paid advertising spend at certain times of the year. But if you can get that monthly recurring model in place, and you can get businesses to adopt that, you get your sales teams to adopt that selling model, you're going to have much better success, and they're going to continue to see the revenue growth over time, right? That leads to then upsells and upgrades and more opportunity. You basically build upon it over time.
And I think this is a great segue into the cultural aspect of this, Desiree, in that this is a journey with a local advertiser. It's no longer one-off sales of spots on TV, spots on a radio, an ad in a newspaper. So can you talk through the cultural elements and especially in terms of how for sales folks, it's becoming more of an education partner?
It is. And I would say the one thing sales individuals today get so overwhelmed by is having to understand and know everything, know every feature, product, the benefits of every single solution that they're offering, and even the services. But what I tell people is, think about how you use all those things today. If you just use your own personal experiences to articulate and educate businesses, you will find that they will connect so much more easily with you instead of rattling off a million different stats and trying to explain the complexities of different social media platforms and how they operate and how they work. That's where businesses get lost, and generally will seek out somebody who can speak to them in more layman's terms so that they understand. So I think it's important that we stop focusing so much on product features, benefits, and really start using our stories and our own experiences to make better sales and help businesses truly understand what it is you're trying to help them achieve.
That's a great point, Des. Any closing remarks?
Well, honestly, I think there's so much more that, digital transformation encompasses. And the one thing I would say is, for any organization that's looking to make a digital transformation, it's really important that they have the right process, they have the right culture, they have the right people in place, and it takes time. And sometimes it's very painful, but I'm telling you, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it's really important to get together with other individuals that have either gone through the digital transformation, are going through it, learning from each other's mistakes, and also learning about what's been really successful, I think will naturally help making that process so much easier.
Desiree, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate those valuable insights on digital transformation.
Thank you.
No worries. I hope you enjoyed that content. Desiree is a wealth of knowledge, and I hope she walked you through what's a really effective journey in terms of understanding the changes happening in the sector, the macroeconomic trends that are impacting business models, and a solution in terms of digital transformation to help you start and go through that journey of becoming a company that's selling a diversified set of products across both digital and traditional. My name is Vishal Tekshnani, and thanks for watching.